So I've been seeing a lot of buzz around the Vancouver Canucks social media world in regards to whether or not the team actually improved or not with their free agent signings from yesterday. Now, as of recording this audio, all of the free agent signings that the Vancouver Canucks made will be talked about, with the exception of Nate Smith, who is probably more so going to be the Sheldon Dries replacement in Abbotsford. We're going to ignore him for this commentary just to make things a little bit easier. But we had ourselves a graphic posted by the Canucks Army crew yesterday after the Canucks made these signings. And they asked the simple question, did the Vancouver Canucks get better? Into Vancouver, you've got Jake DeBrusk, Kieffer Sherwood, Danton Heinen, Derek Forbort, Vinny Desharnais, and Jiri Patera. And out, you have yourselves Elias Lindholm, Sam Lafferty, Ilya Mikheyev, Nikita Zadorov, Ian Cole, and Casey DeSmith. Now, if you had not seen the scoops, then okay, we'll talk about this one more time. Elias Lindholm signed with Nikita Zadorov in Boston. Sam Lafferty went over to Buffalo. Ilya Mikheyev was traded to Chicago. Ian Cole had signed with the Utah Hockey Club. And Casey DeSmith signed with the Dallas Stars. So, this is kind of the tour that we're seeing, because a lot of Canucks fans have been sort of saying, hey, like, the team hasn't really gotten any better. The team was better at the beginning of the playoffs, and there were, like, polls posted out here, people asking whether or not the Canucks improved as a hockey team, and I'm seeing a lot of people being oddly cynical about it. For the most part, I'd say the most prevalent sentiment, like the most widely agreed upon opinion, is that the Vancouver Canucks playoff roster at the beginning of the Stanley Cup Playoffs is better than what the Canucks roster is right now. And I won't disagree with that per se, but I don't think it's as doom and gloom as some people seem to be making it out to be. Oh, the Canucks signed these guys. They're not as good as the guys they had before. Let's just hold our horses a little bit and try to see where everything is coming from. Because when you think about the salary that was handed out to a bunch of the guys that are coming in, honestly, the only quote-unquote bad contract that you could say is there is probably the Vinny Desharnais contract. $2 million is a lot for that kind of a player, but you take Vinny Desharnais and you add on Derek Forbort, it's a lot less combined than what Nikita Zadorov and Ian Cole both ended up going for. Now, of course, we recognize that Ian Cole probably wasn't somebody the Canucks wanted to keep around. Nikita Zadorov, you could say the opposite, but value to value, based off of what else was going on in free agency, I'm honestly fairly okay with the moves that they had made. I know a lot of people have been talking about the idea of Myers' extension and Vinny Desharnais' contract stockpiling up into an unfavorable spot because you could have used that $5 million to get a legit top 4 guy, and there were options of people throwing out there. But at the end of the day, it seems like Patrick Allvin and his crew are very intentional with the guys that they keep around, especially on D. As we said yesterday, they like Big D. So Desharnais, Forbort, Myers, Soucy, they all fit that mold. And unfortunately, some of the other top 4 caliber right-handed guys, other than Myers, aren't really all too big. Or they lack the same caliber of size that these Vinny Desharnais and Myerses are going to achieve. So from a fundamental standpoint of what the Canucks are trying to build, I get what they're doing here. I respect it, honestly. I don't disregard the opposing perspective that says they could have gotten a better decor if they had just used their money more collectively, but I am personally okay with the decor. Now, I will say, Vinny Desharnais and Forbort is a slight downgrade from the caliber of talent that a guy like Nikita Zadorov is able to bring. Ian Cole, you could say that he actually played better than both of these guys too, but in the playoffs, Ian Cole was absolutely terrible, especially against the Oilers, so I guess it kind of evens itself out there. But the Canucks are indeed spending less on this bottom pair compared to what they were doing last year, or what they could have been doing had they re-signed Nikita Zadorov, so I'm honestly okay with it. Meanwhile, up front, you can say that out of the forwards that the Vancouver Canucks lost and gained, Jake DeBrusk, Kieffer Sherwood, Danton Heinen, Lindholm, Lafferty, and Mikheyev, you could very well say that the most talented asset of the 6 is Elias Lindholm. But I like the way that the Canucks Army graphic went out there and labeled these out, because they kind of have the parallels side by side. Jake DeBrusk and Lindholm were both the guys seeking long-term deals and big money contracts. You could say that on their previous teams, they might not have been utilized all too well, they might have been played a little bit further down in the lineup, and they were looking for more opportunity. Jake DeBrusk is going to get that opportunity playing in the top 6 with Elias Pettersson. Elias Lindholm is going to get that opportunity in Boston because he's going to be their first-line center. All in all, it works out the best for both of these players, and for the cap hits too, it works out very well. The Bruins didn't want to pay $5.5 million to a guy like Jake DeBrusk who is not going to be a super important player. The Canucks didn't want to go $7.7 with Elias Lindholm. Plus, if Jake DeBrusk is able to play with Petey and actually be good, if Elias Pettersson is able to bring out of DeBrusk what he brought out of Kuzmenko in his first season, what he brought out of Besser during a few years, then this could be a fantastic addition for the next 7 years. I've seen a lot of Canucks fans trying to compare the Jake DeBrusk profile and what he could be to that of JT Miller, because JT Miller had a pretty similar point production status when Miller became a Vancouver Canuck, which coincidentally was at the same age that Jake DeBrusk is at right now. So it kind of works out that way, but we can make another video about that later on in the week though. You talk about the second place guys on this list though, Kieffer, Sherwood, and Sam Lafferty. At Sam Lafferty's absolute peak, he plays pretty much exactly like Kieffer Sherwood plays. Lafferty plays with pace, he can drive to the front of the net, he can score pretty goals, but in the second half of the year and in the playoffs, he was invisible. Kieffer Sherwood does all those same things, and his shooting is also a big threat, like Lafferty's is. In fact, I'd say that isolated one-on-one, Kieffer Sherwood probably has the better shot than Sam Lafferty. Lafferty scored a bunch of goals by driving to the goal and power forwarding it through everybody. Kieffer Sherwood can snipe it if you give him that time. Not to mention the completely agitative qualities that Sherwood does play with. This is a guy that is versatile. You can play him throughout the lineup. He annoyed the hell out of the Vancouver Canucks in the first round series against the Nashville Predators. So I think this is a really great pickup for the price tag, especially when you consider what Sam Lafferty went for in Buffalo and how ineffective Lafferty was towards the end of his Vancouver Canucks tenure. And then you talk about the third guys here, Danton, Heinen, and Ilya Mikheyev. It's night and day. Sure, Mikheyev might be the fastest player out of these guys, but other than his foot speed, he doesn't provide anything else. He can't win a puck battle to save his life. He can't score to save his life. He can't create offense to save his life. Danton Heinen at least can do that. He's got some pretty okay wheels too. He had scored a short-handed goal against the Vancouver Canucks earlier this year in Boston that was an absolute game-breaking killer goal. So Danton Heinen does have what it takes to compete and do similar things to Ilya Mikheyev. He was also played on the penalty kill too in Boston, Danton Heinen was. Not to mention the fact that he is a Langley guy. He played for the Richmond Sockeyes. He was hovering around this area growing up, so obviously the hometown guy connection makes this a lot more impactful. And with the dollar amount being so much cheaper than Ilya Mikheyev's, it's a night and day difference. So, in my opinion, obviously, when you think about the top tier talents, I'd say that Lindholm was the most talented forward the Canucks lost. Zadorov was the most talented defenseman the Canucks lost, and you can say that the most talented Canucks forwards in defense that they got are not as good as Lindholm and Zadorov. The depth rounds itself out better with this current version of the team, and you can say that there's a lot more security financially because these dollar amounts that the Canucks guys have now are a little bit lower than what the Lindholms and Zadorovs and stuff could have gotten. Then you go over to goaltending and you talk about Jiri Patera and Casey DeSmith. I honestly don't think it's that important anymore when you consider how good Artur Silovs was and how they sort of want to project him as to being a number 2 guy in Vancouver. If he has to fight it out with Patera for that 1A, 1B, or not 1A, that 2A or 2B spot, then okay, that's totally okay. We'll see what happens. Good competition never hurt anybody, right? Especially when it comes to fighting for a job. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Vancouver Canucks and whether or not they actually did get better or worse. I'll agree with the sentiment that says that the talent ceiling of the guys now compared to the roster at the start of the playoffs is technically lower, but I do think that there is good potential for growth with this team, and there's a lot more depth and flexibility financially compared to the roster that the playoff team had. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Jake DeBrusk, Kieffer Sherwood, Danton Heinen, Forbort, Desharnais, and Patera, as well as Lindholm, Lafferty, Mikheyev, Zadorov, Cole, and Casey DeSmith. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.